Welcome to Shreveport Bossier Local Lens, the podcast dedicated to sharing the stories of the people making a difference in the Shreveport Bossier community. Hosted by Jeremy Sutton, each episode dives deep into inspiring conversations with local leaders, creators, and change makers who bring unique perspectives and positive impact to our area. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Carla Bunytn today. She is the Executive Director of Compassion for Lives here in Shreveport, and we're going to be talking about who she is, what she does for the community. Carla, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to learn about everything. I'll be honest with you, up until 2 weeks ago, I didn't know about Compassion for Lives. And so, which is, I have my own charity and I know nobody knows about it. And so, but I want to learn about, who you are and how you got involved. So just kind of start out with introducing yourself and that kind of thing.
Well, my name's Carla Bunytn, Executive Director, as you stated, for Compassion for Lives. Compassion for Lives was founded in 2013 by a group, minded like individuals. They were social workers, human service workers. And then at that time, I think the incarceration rate had went up out of the roof in 2007, and we saw that was going on. And so we came together and we wanted to help with reintegration. And so we started off with just job readiness. We're part of the Cattle Correctional Center there. Actually, let me back up. We started with Johnny Ray Jones with the youth first, and eventually rolled over to the adults and came up with job readiness, and it was mental health. And we've just been running since then.
Yeah.
Yes, with job readiness. And it's trickled into looking at the demographic. We found the gaps. So then we went into career services, career coaching for those individuals that are at Cattle Correctional and Bossier Parish Max now. Licensed clinical social worker. She offers substance abuse, dialectical behavior therapy. We found another gap because career coaching, we want to drive those individuals into, guess what, the workforce.
Right.
And workforce has to be, guess what, a lot of those men have to get certified. So they had to have a GED high set to get a certification. So then we fill that gap with the live remote, with the live instructor GED high set training, which is effective. So that's where we started with just those two little simple things. And as we saw the gaps, we fill the gaps.
Yeah. It's funny how you start to do one thing and then you see there's another need.
Mm-hmm.
With my charity Senior Day, I really wanted to just take senior citizens on fishing, hunting trips, whatever that they couldn't do. And then now I'm seeing, hey, there's a lot of people that don't have anybody for Christmas or holidays or come to see them. Now we're talking about, we just got a hot water heater for somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, God, I might not do the adventure thing. I might have to do something else because this might be what's needed.
Right. The gaps.
Yeah. Sometimes there's just gaps. Right. So I'm assuming that there's not a lot of agencies around that are filling these gaps because that's why y'all are doing them, correct?
Well, you have Goodwill Industries. They do a lot of what we do. And I think that we're the other. Then you have other, you have some different resources that do GED high set programs. You have some people who do career coaching, job development. You have them out there. But what makes us kind of unique is a lot of times when those men and women come home, there are so many barriers they've already faced when they were incarcerated or prior to incarceration. So we became a one-stop shop, and we're on a grassroots level. I mean, you have Goodwill, who's a big NGO nationally. You have those bigger entities that are consumer-based, and with us being smaller, we were just able to, I guess, kind of get in the trenches a little bit more and service a little bit more. So you have resources out there, and I hear the word duplication a lot.
Right.
And they don't understand with this demographic, there cannot be enough duplication. Right. Maybe with funding, I can understand when they say that, but the service is Louisiana has the highest incarceration rate. So it's a lot of us that are just needed.
So we have the highest rate in the country.
It's last 16 years. Yes, sir.
Well, at least we're leading in something, I guess. Oh my goodness. Well, so a few years ago, I think I talked about this on another podcast. I got to work at CCC. I did PT on some of the inmates, and it was a very eye-opening experience for me. Not because I saw something crazy, but because I saw people that had messed up and were paying their debt, rightfully so, but they were still just people.
Right.
And so when they come out, they want to live a life.
Right.
So why is it important for y'all to help them?
Well, I look at it this way. First of all, reducing recidivism it's a big thing here in Louisiana because we have the highest incarceration rate. Like you just stated, somebody who's made a mistake and need to reintegrate. Also, I look at it as a quality of life. I want a quality of life. So because someone made a mistake, I feel like they should get a second chance to get a quality of life as well. I know Louisiana, we're kind of the last in kind of everything. And here in the city of Shreveport, Cattle Parish, we need more taxpayers as well. So helping those folks get a quality of life is number one. And then number two, reducing recidivism. And then number three, we'll guess what? We're getting taxpayers so we can get a better city living as ourselves in the community.
Right.
So that's why it's so important.
Yeah. So it's building the community up as well.
It's building the community up.
What challenges do y'all notice in trying to reintegrate, especially the ones that have been incarcerated?
It's a lot. Compassion for Lives, we get a lot of violent offenders.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying what Goodwill gets or what they don't get, but for some reason, I have gotten beaten up in this city because of the violent offenders that we try to help. Sexual offenders fall in that category. Right. And people are just not too pleasant when we're talking about helping that demographic. Right. Unfortunately, I'm one that don't like the forced rape thing. I get kind of crossways too for someone walking to my office who's forcibly raped someone.
Sure.
And then I also see a young man that may be 19 years old who probably was with a 16-year-old, just a carnal knowledge. Right. That's a barrier by itself because no one wants to hire, no one wants to house, no one wants those people around them. Sure. So that's one barrier with that particular population. And then you have your violent offenders may have be aggravated battery, domestic violence, convicted felon with a firearm, etc. Another barrier because now they're not getting second chances in employment. Right. So for us to be in that office Monday through Friday, saying that we're the folks that are going to help you with career, mental health, GED, quality of life, and then we can't get that assistance from an employer to say, we're going to give a second chance, housing, we'll let them rent here. So those are barriers that particular population have. I've gotten beat up for saying that I'm controversial, but I think that touching it every day, seeing it every day, having the compassion that I do have for these people to reintegrate, I may seem a little controversial because I really want them to get a second chance. So the barrier is, just like I said, there's a lack of housing for those individuals, jobs, and just a second chance at a quality of life. Those are just barriers every day, all day. And it's to each person that walks in our door, we tell them that, they're accountable as well. We're not in the business of enabling the body because they've had made a bad decision, a bad choice. So they have to be on board with us as well to endure the challenges. Right.
So I get that 100% from the community standpoint, but I also get it from your standpoint. I work with Clint Davis a lot, and they have sex addicts groups that they do, and I've heard him talk about how, look, as Christians, from his point of view and mine, we're not going to support someone that's doing wrong, right? But if you have done wrong and you still have to live, we want to try to help you live right and live better and productive. And so from that viewpoint, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, but I get both sides of it for sure. What are y'all doing to try to get those people reintegrated? I mean, I know there's a lot of roadblocks, but how have you successfully been able to help those people?
Well, God first, thank God.
Yeah,
because it's definitely not me and the staff, it is God. We have been very successful. And the reason why is going into those jails, I'll go myself because I can't let it go. I'll never let it go. That's why we're grassroots as executive director. I'm able to put my hands on it. We build trust there in our curriculums. The licensed clinical social worker, myself, Dr. Williams, those men and women trust us. Right. And so when they come home, we give them hope. So when they come home and they know they're being held accountable, we watch them actually go through the training. We watch them get the GED high set. We watch them when we do the enrollment for them to go to Northwest Technical College or BIPSI to get the certification. We watch them. We do a lot of follow-up. Follow-up is the key when you have someone successfully trying to reintegrate successfully. Sure. Because of the barriers that they can fall into in their own, social environments. So we've watched them. We service over 800 people a year.
Wow, that's amazing. That's huge.
It's huge, and we didn't try to.
Sure, no, I know you didn't.
What happened was that friends started telling friends, like the word of mouth is the best form of advertisement.
Yes,
and that's what happened. So we've been successful. The GED High Set program, I think, really pushed us through, because without a GED, they couldn't get into a trade school. So when it's like those men and women were hearing for the first time that they had the opportunity for success of being a welder, a plumber, a driver, CDL driver. It's like they were hearing it for the first time when they were incarcerated. So when they get that information there and they go, yeah, you can do this. You can do this too. They come home and they look to do just that. Yeah. So that's how it's worked. Just work with hope. Yes. And the hope comes, of course, from God.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, it's funny, again, going back to the being at CCC, just treating those men, and mostly I worked with men there, a few women, but treating them with respect. And then I just saw how, I built friendships with those men. And there's one I can think of today that we talked about his kids. He loved his daughter. He had a teenage daughter and son. He loved his dog. We both had pit bulls, and we talked about that. He loved his mom. They're people. Like, they want to live. They made mistakes. Yeah. I know some of them aren't going to come out because they made horrible mistakes, but even I don't want to be judged on my worst day. And so I want to be helped. And so I'm glad that you're here to help those. To back up a little bit, how did you even get started doing this? Because I looked you up on Facebook and saw some of your past experience. I'm like, okay, I don't see where she went somewhere. How did you get to this point?
Well, I was offered. I started off at Goodwill. And I loved it. Then things didn't go that well, but no one could take the passion from me.
Right.
My brothers, and I say this story to every time they ask me how I get involved and why I was so passionate, because I was an accountant before. I used to be in media before, adjunct professor. But this hit home because I was from a community that once was a community, thriving community in the African American community. And I watched my brother. My brother came from a good home. My dad was military, retired Air Force. My brother made bad choices. The bad choice ended up being substance abuse, crack cocaine addicted, and then murder. So I got to see that channel of him coming from the home, that happening to him. Another brother, same thing, but he wasn't no substance abuse, but just in trouble in the system. Also, friends, when I grew up as a little girl, I watched them. System hit them, criminal justice system hit, never ever got to get back on their feet. That social learned environment turned into what it is today. They've never reintegrated. So I was able to identify with a demographic, and then one that got outside of it, and it didn't affect me, but
sure,
those ones I love were impacted.
Right.
So it's a calling. People, it's a calling. It's not something I do for money. We need money. Of course, you got to have it.
Absolutely.
But it's a calling. I think that people, they don't realize it. It's not just something you come up with overnight. God places you and he puts you where he wants you. And that's where he put me. And like I said, I was able to do just what you did, go into those jails and build relationships with those men and women. And they heard the passion, and they know that I'm very passionate because I knew where they were coming from.
Right.
And I knew where they were trying to get and where they need to get. Yeah. And so the relationships built there. And so that's how I ended up here. I never let it go. We've been here for 11 years in that same building. Same staff, 11 years. And we all feel this way. We all have family members that were impacted, probably like a lot of us do.
Sure.
Like I said, I think it was a calling for them as well. Because they can do anything they want like I can. And they still are there.
Right.
And like I said, and we're here in Louisiana where we're the highest. The jail, cattle correctional, I think it's supposed to house over 1,200 individuals. I'm not sure. I think Bossier's 800, 900. And those are just jails.
Right. Yeah.
See, that's not
Wade Correctional.
That's Wade. That's just jail. So, and we have seen, Jeremy, some habitual offenders.
Sure.
Back and forth. And then I did here in the city for about 2 years straight, what you call root cause symposiums, where I want to find the root cause of crime. I was doing a study, and we put all these men that were incarcerated formerly on panels, and we had questions, and I was trying to find out the root causes of what made them, these criminal activity, what was causing it. Long story short, the data that we were receiving, it became saturated, same answers. Okay. Our licensed clinical social worker, when we found the root causes, after those, we did 5 root cause symposiums, with 5 different group of men. I asked her if she would go and look into the mental health side. I said, well, can you look at does this sound like something? And she goes and she looks and she finds what you call adversity, community, environmental factors.
Okay.
They also have what you call ACEs, adversity childhood experiences. And she goes, nobody ever looked into the adversities of the community environmental factors, with lack of education, lack of employment, substance abuse, all these mental health. And those were all the things that those men were telling us that caused their criminal activity. So that's where we are now. And I know when you're talking about what helps with successful reintegration, and the solution is attacking the adversity.
How do we do that? How do I help do that?
I wish that you and everybody else could help with employment.
Yeah.
Helping us find violent offenders, because they get the bigger challenge of getting second chances of employment. Us helping get those men and women into school of their choices. And first, of course of all, God, number one.
Sure.
Churches, if you can get them into some churches. Those are the things that I think that's going to help with, tearing down the challenges of adversity, because that's going to, like we talked about here before, quality of life.
Yeah.
And I think they leave the activity of crime alone, because then it breaks the generational curses that we're seeing in our community.
Yes, something that I didn't know about growing up, but generational curses. Like, just because your grandfather and your great grandfather and then your dad, you don't have to do this. But I drive around Shreveport all day long, and I see the parts of the community that are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
We all know we can go to where it is. We know where it is, and I've had patients say, "Look, I'll watch someone get shot right there," which blows my mind because I didn't grow up in that, right? But it's here, and we have to address it. And so I'm super glad that you're doing that. Talk about a little bit more just about that passion for helping these people. Like, I know, this is your calling, but why should it be important to other people in the community?
Like you just stated, we have to drive around and see it. Every time I'm driving down the street, and, I live off South Cross Lake, so I live right on the edge of the communities that it's all going on in,
Sure.
Right? But every time I drive down the street and I don't care if he's a white man, I don't care if he's a black man, black woman, I see the adversity. It's a visual. It's usually substance abuse, maybe homelessness, mental health. I don't think any of us want to see that where we live. I see that, nobody wants to drive to those communities anymore. Sure. So you can drive around them all day long, right. But to drive through them is, I think, it gives me, every time I see it, I'm disheartened. My passion comes from every time I see it. I'm withdrawn, I cannot stand seeing that. And so my passion, it stays fired up because I see it every day.
Yeah.
I see it every day.
I was thinking this morning, it's funny you said that, black and white, because I was walking to my truck this morning. I'd left some stuff at home, and I don't even know where this came from, but the thought that hit me is like, if your first thought is color, something is seriously wrong with you. Like, if that's your first thought, yep. Is this person black, white, yellow, purple? Yep. There's something wrong with you. Something's wrong with you. And so, because it doesn't matter what color you are in this city, I've seen everybody, and it's hard. It's hard. I've talked about this a lot. I've seen very poor people, very rich people at the end of their lives, and we all end up in one room of our house, mm-hmm. surrounded by the things that are important to us. Sometimes that's people, sometimes it's stuff, sometimes it's nothing because you have nothing, but it hits everybody. It hits everybody. And I've seen people that have come for money and have nothing. I've seen people that had nothing. It's just, it's a community, it's a human problem.
Right.
And we all need to address it.
And that's what I talk about a lot. The participants that we have, that 800 I told you, they're white and black.
Absolutely.
So when they walk through our doors, white or black, we embrace them, yes. Regardless. We talk about incarceration in Louisiana. The last time I looked at the percentages, there were like 60, I think 4% of African American incarcerated in Louisiana. I think it was like 35% Caucasian, and then there were some others. But at the end of the day, even in the jails or prisons or whatever, I have seen that white and black men and white and black women, they're going through the same thing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So they even build a bond while they're incarcerated. We have a women's support group for the incarcerated women when they come home. Vanessa Smith, our clinical social worker, and they're white and black women.
Yeah.
When I'm in the jail and we're laughing and joking and we're participating in classroom discussions, it's white and black men. Yeah. I just don't understand where there's a separation when you talk about race, when you're talking about incarceration. That's just, there's no difference.
Right. No,
Nah.
absolutely.
Nah.
There's no difference in people, regardless.
People, period.
It's horrible. So how do local businesses, agencies, how do y'all collaborate with them?
Well, we have a lot of partnerships. We have some wonderful companies, okay, here that do partner with us, that knows what we do, that we can pick up the phone and we send people to go work. We have that. That's already wonderful. We have wonderful partnerships with organizations, other organizations, resources that we do not offer, they offer. Those men and women go to them. So we have partnerships. We would like to have more. We would like to see more companies get involved with second chances, that really give a second chance, because we have seen, Jeremy, in the last 11 years, that the employers kind of pull back.
Yeah.
And I can't blame all employers, because I've gotten the feedback on why a lot of them pull back. And a lot of them have to do with retention.
Right.
Those guys sometimes and women go on these jobs and they may not feel their $9 an hour is enough money for them. I repeatedly tell those folks in career counseling that you have to start somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
You cannot expect, I understand we have inflation.
Right.
I understand that the rent's much higher than it was before, but you have to start somewhere. So I would just ask employers to please try to give some second chance. And then you have had a lot of them. So I can't sit here and bash my employers in the city of Shreveport.
Yeah.
But if they can just give another shot at it.
Right. What kind of companies are you looking to partner with that you need?
Men are always asking for warehousing jobs.
Yeah.
They said we'll do shipping and receiving. We don't care, Carla. Please ask them if they'll give us a job in warehousing. Women, of course, they all never mind going to be servers in restaurants. They're just right now they're asking for anything, because I have really seen a lot of doors shut. For instance, to give example, for many, many years, you had your janitorial services that will give second chances.
Right.
A lot of them have shut doors on violent offenders. And it's because other violent offenders went in, had some theft issues, and they shut doors on that particular demographic. So I just wish that they would find something, if anything, to give second chances. Maybe those individuals can go out to those companies and start from the bottom and work their way up.
Yeah. Are there healthcare providers or anybody else that y'all need to come partner and step beside y'all that maybe you don't already have or need more of?
We can use more of everything. There's nothing, mental health providers, wellness and health, because that's another issue with a lot of men that are reintegrating. I don't think people understand what we've seen here is a lot of men that come home, and women. Mental health it's way, oh God, it's bad, because they're in a crisis typically before they are incarcerated. A crisis can be a lot of things. They think the crisis is just maybe living on the street, but a crisis is someone who maybe they have like you said, don't have enough money, lack of whatever it may be, but it goes into depression and anxiety and whatever it is. So right then and there, they're in this crisis, and that may be the reason why they even commit the crime, because they're depressed. They don't have money, blah, blah, blah. Then they come home and then they're in the same very crises. Right back into it. So mental health is a big one. Wellness health is another one. Of course, education. They need everything.
Yeah.
Their housing is a huge crisis. I'm not sure if they knew here in the city of Shreveport. A lot of violent offenders are not able to rent anywhere because of their background. So that leaves them homeless. You have some folks that will help with housing, but it's typically in a transitional housing situation that once again goes back into depression and anxiety because they can't rent.
Sure.
So it's everything. I mean, I wish they would call us, and wherever they could fit in for the demographic we service, we can get them over to that particular entity.
Maybe we can just close these malls down. They have 3 stores and put housing in there. I don't know.
I wish. I've asked them if they can take some of the buildings downtown, and maybe the city themselves can get more involved, and the city can house them.
Yeah.
The Shreveport Police Department can house them.
Yeah.
They'll stay there.
Yeah.
So
we better not start on that topic. Well, how do people find out more about what you're doing and how to get involved?
Well, they can go to our website, www.compassionforlife.org, or they can go to our Facebook page and they can find us there. They can call us at 318-828-1769, and we're always there Monday through Friday.
Love it. Carla, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Shreveport Bossier Local Lens. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast to help us spread the word about the amazing people in our community.